All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. As people continue to come in, they'll jump right in. It'll be good to go. So, again, my name is Kristen B. Welcome to In Session Merch 101. Today, we're joined by amazing artists and industry professionals who are going to share with us how to produce, market, and successfully sell merch to your fans, both in person and online. So, I'm joined by Abyss. We've got Erica Bishop and Axel on the call as our amazing panelists. Let's start with you, Abyss, and go around the screen and just let us know and let the audience know your preferred gender pronouns and a bit about yourself.
My name is Abyss. I'm a spoken word artist. I've been performing for 23 years. I'm also a Peabody Award-winning HBO deaf poet, and I've been some of everywhere, and I've been hustling for a long time. So I love it.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, Abyss. Erica, would you like to go next?
Hi all. My name's Erica. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm out of Boston. I am actually the ops manager for the So Far Boston headquarters and assistant to our CEO. But I have also been selling merch for about 10 years now, obviously, not this year, sadly. But my background is in VIP hospitality and event management. But I've been doing merch from small clubs all the way up to arena shows for the past decade.
Amazing. Definitely super insightful. Thank you, Erica. And Axel, you want to go next? Round us.
Yeah, so my name is Axel. My pronouns are he, him, and hey, you. And yeah, I'm an artist. I was on Songland. I've been nominated for an Emmy. I've gone viral on Spotify, done brand placements with a bunch of different brands, including McDonald's. So I've kind of been all over the map, but being an artist is my heart and soul. And making sure that dope merch goes along with that is a fun pastime of mine.
Love that. Love that. Thank you, Axel. Thank you all. I'm super, super excited for this incredible panel. And just a bit before we dive in, we received some great input for our content and questions. So thank you so much for everyone who submitted any questions that you had ahead of time. So we're going to be covering those questions for the first 45 minutes. And then for the last 15 minutes, we're going to jump into some live Q&A at the end. So with that said, I've got a few Zoom housekeeping things to keep in mind. The first thing is this is a supportive and uplifting space, so please keep the dialogue in the chat respectful and uplifting as we get into the discussion. Next is the chat function, so please feel free to use the chat to share where you're tuning in from. You guys have already done that, amazing. And also, if there's anything that we're discussing that resonates with you, jump in the chat, let us know how you're feeling. And then we're going to use the Q&A function for any questions that you have so that we make sure it doesn't get lost in the chat room while we're discussing. And then at the end, we'll dive into those questions that you all submit. So at the bottom of your screen, also in the chat, make sure to change that little blue bar from panelists to panelists and attendees so everybody can see what you're saying. And at the end, you'll receive a short survey to just let us know how you felt about the in session and if you have any other topics that you'd like us to discuss. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. So in general, what is the benefit of creating merch? We have so many people that are like, I want merch, but what's the benefit to having merch in your opinion? And we'll start with Axel. What do you think is the importance of merch?
Merch is really helpful in two ways. Number one, it can actually make you some money, which as an artist, all artists are trying to figure that out constantly and forever. So, especially like t-shirts are a great way. They're tried and true in terms of like a good margin. They're cheaper to produce and you can mark them up really easily. So it's number one is it's a solid way to start making money from your shows or selling to fans, etc. But the fans is also important because the second really important piece of merch is it's a great way to further build your relationship with your supporters, whether that's fans or family or friends or whatever. It's like anytime somebody's using your merch or wearing your merch or something, it's an opportunity for somebody new to discover you. So your fans become a sort of walking billboard for your own artistry or your music or your project or whatever it is that you are doing. If you have great merch, people associate with you. They associate you with that. So helps build your brand, helps deepen your relationship with your fans. And yeah, like you can actually make some good side money.
Money's always.
Yeah.
Oh,
I agree with what you just said on both parts, because if you have good merch, people, it's not that they just need another t-shirt or another hoodie. Let's be honest, how many of those we all own? But
Yeah.
what it is, it's like a tangible reminder of a really awesome experience that they've had. So it's like they get to buy a little reminder of this memory of just like this wonderful time that they had at your show. And if you have good merch, even if it doesn't have your name emblazoned on the front of it, someone could be like, oh, that's a really awesome bag, or that's a really awesome whatever. Right. And then folks are like, oh, it's this artist. I saw this show or whatnot. And you have your very own, as you said, it's your very own billboard.
I agree with you guys as well. I definitely think you should commemorate all performances with some type of merchandise or something to just let them know, like, like for a keepsake, like whatever it is. If you can't take the feelings, take something tangible. And if it's intangible, you make sure that it's presentable or make it talk, make it speak for you when you're not in the presence of them. So a lot of times we don't have to worry about selling music at some of these shows. I've seen some of the best displays out of vintage suitcases.
Oh, absolutely.
With some lights. And
oh, yeah.
I've been in the game a long time, excuse me, but we'll take best practices and we'll look at it. And, I've done a lot of so far shows. So getting out here and you're seeing just an amalgamation of different type of merchandising techniques. It makes you think like, oh my God, I got to come to the game with something different. I got to be something totally, I got to be like, you can do the t-shirts and everything. It's like, oh, if everybody has t-shirts, if two or more have t-shirts, oh my God, like it becomes, like I have to be different. So when I started, I started with soap and it was soap. And I was on my soapbox. So that was my whole thing. I was like pioneers for spoken word per se with the so far community, but I embraced music. So I brought the two together and man, talking about nice. I mean, I met a lot of beautiful people, but I got a chance to tour Florida and leave my imprint on Florida with soap and basically rhymes and performances. It was beautiful. So I loved it.
Yeah, I've sold merch. Amazing. I've sold merch out of a vintage suitcase on a bar stool in the corner of a club. And I've sold merch out of an 18-wheeler that opens up on the side with the band's face on it. So, it's definitely, you can get really creative with very little.
I want to actually,
and it kind of rolls up.
Sorry, I want to go back to something Erica said, and Derrick, you touched on this as well, but I think it is interesting that, like when you're trying to throw out old t-shirts or old pieces of clothing and like you're trying to retire it, but you're like, you just can't bring yourself to do it because it's the memories, right? It's the experience. And you brought that up. And that's a really interesting thing when we talk about merch. Because of course, if you do something smart and you do something to differentiate yourself, with the product itself, that's awesome. But let's say, you aren't doing that, right? Let's take that out of the equation for a second. At the end of the day, a cool design is a cool design, but what's more important is the presentation of that merch, I think, and the story that person associates with how they ended up with that shirt. Like, and don't get me wrong, I think like great design is super important for all merch, and like you want the design to reflect your brand and your personality and what you want to make people feel. But like the how of how you actually give it to them, of how they receive it, the context in which they get that, like those stories, us as human beings, this is why we're artists, like we love stories, and we're driven by stories, we're attracted to stories. And so I think as you think about merch, like not just thinking about the product itself, but how are you going to present it? You know, what's the story that's going to be around the merch? Because that's going to sell it as much, not even sell it, but that's going to make it valuable to the person who bought it in a way that like having a cool logo maybe not will make it stand out or differentiate itself, right? So that's why like the suitcase like experience, that's a cool way to buy an item, right? Like how many
Right.
items do you buy like that? Not very many. So you remember that, you know? So those are really important elements too, I think.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Uh, I believe like even with the networking and I guess post-COVID now, because we were real in a touchy-feely world in the sense of how So Far was, because we were grouped together and everything. And one thing that I liked about it was the networking. So on my off time, I've been researching like how can I be a better networker in I guess a post-COVID society in a sense. So now I have a business card that is on my pinky ring, which is stylish, but it allows me not to touch you. It's called the bump card. So I bump your phone, your NFC phone, and now instead of me, hey, networking with probably 3 people and trying to talk to you guys, hey, look at my Instagram, hey, look at my YouTube. You guys can find more merch here, and show you your videos. Now I can just put this into your phone. You can check it out later. You can send it to friends. I can contact you by email, text, everything. So now I'm looking at the better mousetrap because I enjoyed the shows. I missed the shows that So Far had. But more importantly, all of the people that you met, like from different walks of life, and it helps you come up with different merch because you're starting to see your demographic might be something that you totally didn't even know. And I've enjoyed it from I've been to So Far in Charlotte and Birmingham, all of Florida, and just going to these different places, you just see all different walks of life, and it's so beautiful. So, what's the NFC business card ring from Ellie Kim? Was that the question? It's called
Yeah.
the Bump Card, thebumpcard.com. If you get in touch with me, like I said, after the panel, I can get all of this stuff to you. But I think it's ideal for us artists to one, stay connected, because what So Far did is they allowed a platform where we could be ourselves. So what better way to promote yourself? Sometimes we're on Facebook and you think you're looking through a windshield and you're looking through a peephole. And when you're looking through the peephole, it's like, oh my goodness. Like we think everybody is seeing these things. Now you put control in it. Boom. Here, you can have it, look at it, peruse through it. You had a great experience. Just hit me up and let me know. So, like
Absolutely.
you take all of the like we have to realize we're in a new century and we just have to be the analogs that kick it in the digital.
Mm-hmm. You should do poetry,
Love
man.
that. Right, right.
I think I'll
Then that
try.
brings me right into the next question around, we have these ideas of what merch is supposed to be. We got t-shirts, we got stickers, like posters, those things that we think about. But what are some of the most creative merch that you've seen outside of your soap,
No,
your bump
I have to
ring?
say 5J Barrel. 5J Barrel was a husband and wife team. And I met them at the beginning of thank you. 5J Barrel. I met them. Where did I meet them? I met them in Florida. And we wound up doing like 3 of the 5 or 6 shows that we had together. And they had their merch like inside of their suitcase, but their suitcase was their bass drum. So you always saw their picture on it. And it's like a guy on a microphone and he keeps kicking it. And next thing you know, that same thing, Team Card, I'm sorry, Team Abyss, the bump card.me. I'm sorry. I'm looking at this is pretty cool. So I'm looking at all of their merch inside of the bass drum that it was almost like a product placement. So it's like 5J Barrel, and that was their apartment and the street that they used to live on. and that's their name. That's where they lived. That's where they met. You know, this beautiful love story. And then you're like, oh my God. And they're selling the merch out of here. And you have to hear their whole act goes together so cohesive. It was so dope. It almost made
Love
me
that.
want to just make water products in Abyss. And he has a Neptune pool, you know, and everything else. You know. So, but it was pretty cool. So yeah, I'm
Amazing.
who's next? I'm
I think
sorry.
some
Yeah,
of
I love
the
that.
I think some of the best merch, you know, outside of the standard like t-shirts and stuff are ones that I've seen that people or teams or artists have really put thought into both who their demographic is and what their experience really is. So like I was at a festival where a big part of it was trying to reduce as much waste as possible. So in order to buy a beer or a drink, you had to buy drink tickets. You had to buy drink tokens. And for like a couple extra dollars, you could buy a stainless steel pint glass with the festival logo on it to keep. And so not only were you saving, it was like this whole thing where like, you know, not only did you get this cool thing to bring home, you were saving plastic cups and, you know, it was just a couple extra bucks. So I thought that was like genius. You know, I've worked, you know, reggae shows where people had branded rolling papers. People who were working like folks that do like outdoor shows, like at a festival or sort of thing, like they sell Frisbees, you know, like even if you don't need a Frisbee, like you're at an outdoor show, like the band is selling a Frisbee, like why wouldn't you? Or, you know, artists that are touring the Northeast in January have scarves or beanies versus folks that are in warmer climates having sunglasses and, you know, that sort of thing. So it's just, it's smart planning with your merch. And it's always, you know, like you know, even there was a bar that I used to, or a venue bar that I used to frequent, and they only sold cans. And for an extra $1, you could get a koozie. That's just makes sense. Like who wouldn't do that? So it's just being smart about that kind of thing.
I love that. And Erica, that kind of like rolls me into another question around like, what are three things that artists should consider when they're in the creation phase of their product? So you're like, if you're in a warmer climate, don't get hoodies and beanies because, you know, people may not be, you know, interested in buying that. So like, what are three things that you think artists should think about when they're looking to create their
Yeah, absolutely. So first, think of your demographic. If you're, and again, we obviously we all want to appeal to a large range of people, but you can honestly tell me if you're, you know, sort of the age range or that sort of thing. So if you're like, I've worked for artists whose demographic were basically high school girls, like it was young women, but they didn't order enough small t-shirts. And I heartbreakingly had so many people walk away, like they had their cards out, they had their cash out, they wanted to spend it. And they're like, I'm like, I don't have any left. So keeping that sort of thing in mind, you know, if you're a metal show and you primarily have like big dudes, like maybe just get some real big black t-shirts. Black t-shirts are pretty solid at a metal show. Think about when and where you are touring, but also think about how you're moving this stuff around. Like invest in, you know, even just a rolling suitcase, because you have to move that stuff. It's going to be heavy. You know, if you're traveling, you may have to pay for shipping it or baggage fees or things like that. And oh, there's so many I can't pick.
Yeah, no worries.
No,
that was a huge help.
I think the last one is just take into consideration the reality, because as Axel said, like you don't want to end up with like a million t-shirts left over. I guess in his example, it was like t-shirts that you love, but like you don't want to end up putting boxes of your t-shirts in like your mom's basement for the next 10 years. You know, do a reasonable run of things. Scarcity actually makes things more appealing. When I'm, you know, if I'm selling merch, I'm like, someone's considering it, I'm like, listen, there's only one left of these. People just throw their money at it. Like, yes. You know, think about how much travel you have to do. I've seen people try to do like pint glasses and like shot glasses, and like, well, that's cool and all. Like, those are heavy to move around and they're probably going to break at some point, and that's money that you lose. If you're doing posters, you're going to have to invest in a way to move them around without mangling them, because, you know, if they get wet, or that's so much money that is just out of your pocket, you can't sell that. You can give it away, but like, that's not something you want to give away.
Absolutely. Things that I definitely wouldn't have thought about. I love mugs, and I'm like all about the mugs.
Mugs are awesome.
And didn't think about how heavy they are.
Yeah, leave them on your online shop. Yeah, leave them on your online shop. Like, bring your foam koozies and your t-shirts and your
drop ship would be the way to go if you're going from state to state, unless you have. I had a Sienna, a cargo, not cargo van, but I took the seats out, so it became cargo. It became the band van, and basically I travel around with the stow and go seats. But I think the best thing to do is be compact and efficient more than anything.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
Vendor spaces, it varies from different venue to venue. So you know, just be flexible more so than rigid. You know what I'm saying? Just make sure your stores really pop up.
And assume you'll have less space than you need.
Right.
Yeah. Can I tag on to that? Because one thing that you should also have with you when you're doing merch is having your own, what I call merch kit. And like, so I used to be basically for hire and on call at a number of venues. And I had a merch kit that I would just grab and go. It was actually an old suitcase. And having things with you, because as Axel said, you don't know how much space you are or are not going to have. Like, so you could show up and there could be this like beautiful pegboard with like lighting and a booth and extension cords and all this other good stuff. Or you could show up and people are like, what? So, you know, you have to improvise. So having things like gaff tape, painter's tape, binder clips, thumbtacks, hangers, not just black Sharpies and metallic Sharpies if you're signing something that's dark. If you have like a battery powered set of lights, because not only you might be in a dark corner, like people don't care, or that the outlet might not work.
I'm going to write some of these down.
I can send you a list. I have a very like strong
this
about this.
And there'll be a recording.
Thank you.
Anyone who's ever been on tour knows that this is absolute gold right here.
Yeah, when you're trying to like steal hangers from the coat check, and like the coat check person is going to fight you for them, like that's a big. Things like, yes, Michael, I'll put together like a list. If you're selling posters, carry some rubber bands. You know, it's just a little extra bonus for folks. I'm just
saying, I'm sensing a real merch opportunity here, Erica. You need a merch kit.
I could just patent my own
make a merch kit.
Yeah, my merch kit now lives in a closet because COVID.
Emergency. All right.
But yeah, also like, you know, having it lit up, and this is just a weird little tidbit. So there have been studies that show that drunk people are attracted to flashing lights. I know that's like because they are very, you know, tunnel visioned and they look at what's attracting their. So if you have like flashing lights at your merch table and someone wasn't thinking about coming to visit your merch table at the beginning of the night, if you have some flashing lights going on, people are like, ooh, shiny object, like, let's go check it out. Right. And they're like, yeah, I'll totally buy this sort of thing.
Love that. And don't worry, everybody, we're going to have this recording available to watch on our YouTube channel after the session. So if you've missed out on any information, it's going to be available most definitely.
There's a lot more things I can't think about right now.
No worries. That was the last.
A lot of times we used to have the email list, and sometimes when we're traveling, that gets crinkled up as well. Well, with my business card, the bumpering,
love it.
I can hit it and I'll stow this in my back office, and I'll have all of this stuff at my perusal. So you can tell the technology that they're working on now, you'll know from what area people are logging on. So it puts you more into the how can I say, the driver's seat of where you're going and where you've been, and to basically cultivate your audience and keep them growing. So it's nothing like getting the support, but it's nothing like more like having more control over it.
Yes,
I love
having
that.
control over that information is huge. The email list is super important. People underestimate that. Some people might be hesitant to give you their email just because we're all spammed with so much email these days. That couple ways of making it work is if you offer something in exchange for an email address. Yes, you might get some fake ones, but be like, you can get a sticker or something for
Small
an
button.
email address. Yeah, just a little thing. Or having like an actual like business card sized something. So like, these are my business cards. They're literally just more like a calling card. It's for gigs. It's my phone number and my email address and my name, and that's it. And it's a blank on the back so I can write on it. But like having something that someone can just slip in their pocket, throw in their bag to take away, that just has your band name and like your socials or whatever on it. That's just another way that you can sort of go home with people. And then also, speaking to the email list, I know that a lot of people don't want to give it, but way back in the day when MySpace was a thing, people are like, oh, social media is like, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. But like, MySpace was a huge thing for bands back in the day and for followers. And when it went away, all those fans went away. So as Abyss said, having email addresses and having that other information for people means that you own that information. And if Facebook and Instagram disappeared tomorrow, like, what happens then?
Right.
Yeah.
And
Huge
I think
factor. Must have. Oh, go ahead, Abyss.
I believe a lot of that stuff had us, the convenience made us lazy in the sense of, oh, somebody else will do it. Somebody else will do it. So
Yeah.
the whole thing, having this time off, you can't really get to somebody else now. You have to depend on you.
Right.
So depending on you, you gotta come up with another way to find out what's going on. So what I've realized is like trying to take people through different different platforms and apps. If we consolidate it, and now we're getting this information to us, pretty much we can stay alive. We're in your phones. So even if it's COVID, even if there's a shutdown, guess what? I'm already in your phone. I'm just moving around through via text, email, and word of mouth. The whole thing. So we live off the so far the videos. Oh my God, you could sit and just leave it on and hear so much music, leave a landscape. So imagine just open that portal up to somebody, and all they have to do is they'll see all of your videos. They'll see everything that you've done. Basically, it's team you, everything. And it's like, hey, I can change this if like just like say a website, like a business card, you might can give it out. But if that number's wrong, if it changes or something, boom, now you have a cassette tape. Now with this digitally, we can go ahead and change this real time. So whoever has downloaded Bump the Ring or whatever the card, whoever has it, they're going to automatically get those updates. So it's like a website within that.
You should work for
I
them.
love that.
You're really selling it. Like, I love it. I love it
Yeah.
so much. They should give you commission.
Man, you gotta love
And I
it.
think when you talk about COVID being a thing and having to adjust, a lot of places are shut down and we're not face to face with people as much anymore. So Axel, can you like share a bit about like some of the things that you offer now due to COVID? Like I've seen it on on your website that may not have been something that you wanted to offer or that did as well when you were, live, like your meditation, cooking
Right.
classes, things like that,
Right.
that now are amazing and available online, and you don't have to, interact with people in close quarters. Can you share a
Right.
bit some of those things?
So, no. So there's two things. So I'll answer that, and then because I did want to talk about something that is kind of COVID specific. So yeah, basically one of the things that and this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, I guess, which is that I wanted to offer not just products but also experiences, and you know, I like to. If John Mayer was offering a meditation class, like I would buy that. You know, I would do that, and that tends to be, I think, the best sort of judge for your own merch in general or your own offerings or whatever. It's like, would you buy this? Like, if you wouldn't spend money on it, don't sell it. Like, or like, it's not gonna, like, make it something that you would be stoked to buy. And if you're stoked to buy it, chances are that people who are fans of the way your mind works, you know, they're fans of your artistry, they're fans of whatever energy you're putting out in the world. If you're stoked about it, good chance that the people who are stoked about you will be equally stoked about that. And I like using the word stoked, so you'll hear me saying that word very often. So that's one aside. The second thing I wanted to say is that since we are in COVID and, you know, we're all active artists, and this is something I've been thinking about a lot too, is like, yeah, we don't have shows right now, and who knows when we will have shows, and like, who will feel safe buying merch, you know, at shows. And there's a lot of you know, variables at play. We're still not sure. Everyone's just kind of, you know, flying by the seat of their pants. But one thing that I have been reading about, and there's actually, I don't know if anybody follows him. His name is Ari Herstand.
I used to work at Berklee College of Music, and we've brought him in a number of times to speak.
Cool, yeah. So
he's really nice.
I subscribed to his email list, and he just did like a review of a bunch of direct fulfillment merch companies, like t-shirt companies, basically. And since we can't be at shows handing out t-shirts, and you know, some of us may not have the time or the infrastructure or the patience to like individually mail t-shirts or products or whatever, you know, that is something that I would encourage. You know, I'm looking into it myself. I would encourage, if you're thinking about like, hey, you know, I have a bit of an audience, I have some cool designs or whatever, and I want to try to get merch to people, but you know, now there's not really as much of a chance because in-person shows aren't a thing. To look into that, look into those direct fulfillment places. They cost more because they're doing fulfillment for you, but if you can still mark it up, you know, the margins are still pretty good, at least for t-shirts. And at least in this hopefully temporary period, where we don't, you know, have in-person shows, this is a way for you to still be able to get not even just existing designs, but new designs, you know, new shirts, new products to people, and it's still getting to them. They're still able to support you. They're still able to connect with you in some way. And, you know, I think like the businesses have also evolved in the last year or two, I think, to meet, especially during COVID, than they kind of were over the last couple of years. Because I remember looking at these companies like a couple of years ago and not being very impressed with like the pricing, you know, and sort of the quality and et cetera. It just seemed like it wasn't really that built out. But I think by sort of opportunity in the market and or necessity, it seems that they've stepped up their game. So that's something that people could look into as well. Just to
I love that.
put that out there.
Yeah, but I feel like we also kind of jumped a step, and I want to backtrack a bit. So for artists, indie artists that are looking to just design a product, like they don't even know, you know, they don't have a logo yet, or they, you know, don't really know what they want their product to look like before they begin to sell it. Do you guys have any tips and tricks or any, any tips and tricks for the indie musician who wants to just figure out like logo design or merch design?
Just like look to the people who inspire you and be the sum of your influences. You know, there's a great quote that's like, if you steal from one person, then you, like if you only steal from one influence, then basically you're a copycat. But if you steal from 100 influences, you're an original. And like, I love that because it's so true. Like we like to, I think as artists or as creatives, we all have this like, I think especially early on, we have this obsession with like, being original and like needing to be unique and needing to be like nobody has ever heard me. And I've always found like when I experience something new and I'm like, wow, this is completely original, it's only because I don't know their influences. And once I actually hear who influences them and who influenced their influences and who influenced their influences, you see this, you know, basically this like ancestry of artistry that gets passed down. And that's not just artistry, that's design, it's everything. Like that works across the board. There's a great book called Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. Highly recommend checking that book out, because this is just about, you know, this larger question in general. Like you're like, I want to make this, but I don't know where the idea is going to come from. It's like, man, with the internet, the ideas are everywhere. You literally couldn't run out of ideas if you tried. Like, it's just about having the perspective to understand how much inspiration is actually around you at all times. You just have to be okay with being like, taking influences from other people. So look at your favorite artists, look at their merch, look at merch that you've bought, see like what are the elements that attracted you to it, and how can you take all these different things and make them into this smorgasbord of whatever you want to create. That's sorry, I went on a ramble.
Okay.
No, I love that.
So as indie artists, you should be looking at indie artists in other mediums. So if you are a poet or a musician, look to indie artists who do actual like visual art. Look on, commission someone to do it for you. You know what I mean? People should be paid for what they create. So look on places like EMCEE or Society 6, or if there's an art school in your area, like check out some of the people who are there and talk to them, collaborate with them. If you do know someone who has really great merch, ask them who their designer is, that's where you can find some really inspiring collaborations. If you personally know someone who's an amazing artist, be like, listen, let's work together. I'll obviously give you, you pay them, but you also, give them credit. And then when someone sees your merch and loves it, and you can say like, so-and-so designed it for me, you should check them out. And vice versa. They can add that as part of their portfolio. And there's a lot of really, really great relationships you can get with independent visual artists that you can find. If you're on Etsy and you see something that's real cool, message them. You know what I mean?
Right. Or even you could think about doing gigs with them, or like a collaboration, some type of. I have a circle of talented friends in all different areas, from mechanics to musicians and everything in between. And we make sure that we all we make ourselves needful, if you will.
Love it.
So, we all
they could be like their gallery, they could have a gallery show with you performing. So they've got their artwork on the walls and then you performing there, and it's just a big community.
When I came into the game, I came in with the comedians. Even though I'm a poet, I use the comedy as part of my hosting. But as a poet, I sat and I went around. I traveled with Bruce, Joe Torre, a lot of the guys from the old school. But they actually promoted a whole different way that we don't promote today. But I learned that way because you used to go to a city 2 weeks prior, and you'll lay down the land, go to all of these ticket outlets, because we didn't have a ticket master at the time. They were coming to purchase these tickets from hand to hand. And now, and that's what I like about So Far. They brought the old school back to it, because you didn't know where you were going. You were just showing up like, what we on? It feels like a scavenger hunt. I don't know. Like, even when I met you, Kristen, I didn't know what I was doing that day. And I was just like, wow, I'm just going with the flow. And it was probably like one of those nights that changed my life. You know what I'm saying? So it was really, really cool. Absolutely. And it was the artistic people, but it was the people that's responsible for bringing the art, the purveyors, and the, everything. You guys are basically, thank you So Far for being great distributors of good information. So I appreciate it.
I love that. Thank you. And it really is all about, connection and community. So I love what you all were talking about with, if you're an artist, like find someone in a different art form that can help you with your product design, that can help you, with
Right.
your sales, things like that, so that you're able to promote each other, across all kind of genres, which is amazing and super helpful as an indie artist, like a bartering system. Like I'll provide music if you can provide the artwork, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's amazing. And it kind of brings me to another kind of aspect of it is there anything legally that artists need to keep in mind when they're producing, or creating their designs and are looking to kind of sell their merch? Is there anything legally that they should kind of be?
I would definitely say get into trademarking, just to even entertain yourself by even finding out what the different areas of copywriting, trademarking, licensing, just so you don't find yourselves with a $1 million product and you're getting 1 million cents. You feel me? And it's just one of those things. I've watched a lot of people get robbed because they plan to fail, because they failed to plan. So definitely look into it.
Yep.
Love that. Axel, sorry, did I
Oh
interrupt you
no,
again?
I was gonna say, and just I like that is super important. And just so I'm clear, when I said steal, I didn't mean like steal logos. Like you always want to credit people, and you don't want to just be like taking logos straight up. And Derrick is talking about it on the side of protecting yourself if you created something original, which is super important. And the other side of that is like, don't go, stealing other people's stuff like straight up. Like,
Right.
That's how you end up in legal trouble.
yeah, exactly. That's how you end up in
Absolutely.
trouble. So yeah, definitely from the legal side, that those are both things that you want to consider for sure.
Awesome. Love that clarity. So
Yeah.
I love that. So also, I guess, and now that we, kind of are going straight into the selling aspect, do you find, it's COVID, some, there are a lot of people that have been affected monetarily. Have you seen, do you suggest that artists adjust their price point to ensure that, one, people are able to purchase their product and support them while also keeping in mind that not everybody's, income is as flowing as it once was?
I don't
I,
think, go ahead.
no, go ahead, Erica.
I don't think people need to adjust their price points, but COVID or no COVID, I feel like your merch should be different levels of price points. So, having something you can give away for free, something that's $5, $10, 20, all the way up to whatever the top. I once sold a jacket for $500, but that way people can spend the money that they can to participate. You know what I mean? Like that way they don't, if you price everything $50 and above or $25 and above, even if someone wants to give you their money, like they can't. So I don't think that it should change for COVID. I just think overall people should have taken into consideration different price points. Absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing, can I tag on to the like legal part? It's not legal, but like it's your merch getting you into trouble. There are certain, I know this is really weird, but like it's a thing I always mention. If you have things like stickers, make sure the venue is cool with you either selling them or giving them away, because some venues are not cool with you giving them away because then they end up all over the venue. They end up all over the bathroom stalls. They end up all over the poles and the bars and whatever. And they clearly know where they came from because they have your name on it. So don't piss off the venues. So it's a little thing. You're not gonna get arrested, but like,
Yeah, I knew a guy that did that with bumper stickers in
yeah,
probably 3 states.
and they're everywhere. And people are like, what the hell?
Yes.
Absolutely. Amazing. Awesome.
Anyway,
All right,
sorry.
cool. And no, that totally we need to know that. And there are some venues that also have, in the contract that you can't sell your merch, which, is a whole thing as well. So, just
Yeah,
make sure that
there's
you're understanding of what you're
there's
getting
that.
into.
And then make sure that you've made it clear if they're taking a cut, if they're providing a seller, if you are bringing in your own seller. So like, for example, I've never worked specifically for a venue, but I have had a number of venues who have me who had me sort of on dial, and they knew like this is what Erica charges. And so if an artist was coming through, didn't have their own merch seller, they could say like, we have someone, this is their rate, is that good with you? And then you would know like what was to be expected. So that way at the end of the night, you're not, you know, haggling over this sort of stuff,
Right.
or you're not shocked
Totally.
when the venue takes 10%.
Right.
Definitely. Love that. So now thinking about like everything kind of shifting. Sorry, who was gonna say something? I feel like I cut someone off. No, we're all good. All right, awesome. So now that we're thinking about shifting merch mainly online for those artists that are, you know, in lockdown and just in general having easier access, no touch points kind of things, do you find that the presentation is as important as the merch itself? So, you know, should artists hire professional photographers to set up and take photos of their merch when they're posting it on their online stores, or do you find that that isn't as impactful when it comes down to the bottom line?
I think that's overkill. You're making a bill. I mean, unless your friend has the camera, of course. But you know, and they're a photographer renowned. No. But I think if you have you should be creative and organic as possible, because if you had the machine, and it's kind of like you're in so far, it's anti-machine, if you will. You feel what I'm saying? So the machine has its thing, but I don't want, if I'm trying to get an experience over here with a more organic feel, I don't think the professional pictures, I think it'll take away from the organic.
I
You
agree.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
and
you know,
I feel like that's putting your energy somewhere it doesn't necessarily need to be. You could even just take pictures, you know, of someone you know wearing your shirt, or like have a fan like submit them wearing your stuff or using your stuff, and like use that. Um,
have a step and repeat if you can. I mean, even, or just like me, I'm behind a green screen now. You can have one where you come up and they necessarily won't see it, but on the pictures, hey, it's me. It's
or
like you
like,
took a picture
you
with
know,
me.
take a
Photo booth.
selfie in the mirror of you like rocking your own shirt, and then put that up and be like, you want this shirt? Here's my shop. Yeah, I don't think that you need to. Just a thing about, but when you are in person, like your presentation does matter when you're in person, but only in the sense that people, if you need to make it clear that you care about the items that you're selling, and that, and it's your brand. You know, if you have t-shirts that are wrinkled, or posters that are ripped or whatever, you know, bottom line, if you don't care about your stuff, no one else will. So in person, yes. I think online, get creative. You don't need to pay anyway. Everyone's got a fancy camera in their pocket anyway.
Right.
Yeah,
Love that. Right. Everybody's iPhone. Go ahead.
I'm not necessarily gonna diverge, but I think the thing that I want to emphasize is my answer is not necessarily yes or no, and that's annoying because people want clear answers. But the real answer is, um, you really have to understand what the brand that you're trying to build is, and the look and feel that
Yes.
you're trying to build is. Look, some artists have like a more DIY feel, and therefore a DIY vibe in terms of how you're presenting it makes more sense. But if your
Right.
brand is like hyper polished, sleek and cool, like, and then you suddenly have an offering that doesn't match that, like that's not a good look either.
Right.
Like, so you have to be very aware of what you're trying to build, and then the the real answer is how do you stay consistent within that. So whatever, whatever is going to lead you to a greater sense of consistency across what you're creating, that's the answer to the question, and that's going to differ based on what you are trying to build.
I love
Right.
that, especially
I
like
agree.
when you're considering starting off with your merch. You know, some people immediately are like, oh, I want merch, so I'm going to have like, you know, 3 different t-shirts and 2 hoodies and, you know, cell phone cases and all this other nonsense. Like, hold up, like pick a couple things, not only monetarily will this help you, but it'll help you be able to build your brand visually. If you just start not small, but just simple, you know, don't get too aggressive right away. Not only if you decide to change that later on, have you just wasted all your money and you now need to like give everyone a t-shirt for Christmas because that's all you have. But you know, then you can build on it if you decide to like change your vibe, if you decide that this isn't what you really planned on.
Absolutely love that. And I think it kind of dives right into the next kind of question around, you know, whether we're performing live, whether people are just scrolling online and stumble upon, you know, what's happening with your music. How can you utilize social media to push your merch without being like too salesy or too, you know, like too forward with, you know, that presentation? How can artists kind of utilize their social platforms to continue bringing people into their online shop?
I would definitely show customer participation, other people with your product on. Definitely encourage people to spread the word of mouth, and send pics. I mean, that's the easiest way. I mean, a lot of it, as far as IG, I mean, you know, hey, take a picture or post it, tag me, all of that. So the tag normally works really well. So word of mouth.
I think that's great. Like you can turn it into a contest or something. Like you can say, you know, if you were at my last tour, or like if you saw me in 2019, you know, show me a picture of the merch that you picked up and I'll send you this, I don't know, signed vinyl or that sort of thing. And then you can use those pictures in your post. And then, yes, you're going to send some super happy fan something unique. Or you can be like, you know, send me a picture of your merch and I'll send you like a merch bundle of stuff you don't have.
And it's all
I love
customer
that.
service. So it's all customer
Exactly.
service. So basically, once you come in, I want to massage you till you come back to get the next massage. So
Glad
it's
you
kind
bought
of like,
something, buy more.
right. Hey, you want some more?
Absolutely.
You want some more stuff?
And all of those, you know, live, I mean, virtual shows that are happening right now, you know, with artists being able to offer, like you were saying, Erica, you know, if you're tuning into this, here's a code for, you know, a free sticker along with any purchase that you make, or here's a product code for
Exactly.
10% off anything in the online store since you're tuning into this Instagram live, or since you're tuning into this virtual show as well.
I think having
Yeah,
something that you give away is really important. You know, something like the stickers, like people like to put them on their own road cases or their laptops or, you know, their cars and stuff like that. But, you know, even in person, you can find small things to give away that people will love. One of my favorite things are temporary tattoos. You can get them made pretty inexpensively. And I know I keep talking about drunk people, but like that's what you're going to find at a lot of shows. But like people in general, I find them really fun. So I've worked a show where the artist was giving away, was like, oh, give these away. By the end of the night, like people have them on their foreheads. Like, I mean, and also you don't have to worry about them sticking it on the wall of the venue, but like having something free to give away that you don't invest a lot of money in and that's like light and easy to carry around, it's, you know, and also then people feel guilty they took a free thing from you and they're like, all right, I'll take a t-shirt too.
absolutely. And I think that, you know, I love temporary tattoos, FYI. So,
They're
you
so
know, if anyone
fun.
has one, let me know. But
Yeah, even if you have a glass of water, you just use your glass of water to like put it on.
put it on, you know, so easy.
Yeah.
And I guess now that, you know, we're wrapping up, we're getting to the end of the in session, such great information. One other question I want to ask is, are websites integral to online sales, like to merch sales, or are there other really cool or easy platforms that you all have found or experienced for artists to sell their merch through? It's a tough one.
I don't want to sell my ring again, but go ahead, you guys talk.
I mean, I think it's a lot like I'd say it's almost the same answer to like the emails question, or related to the topic of emails. You know, like having it on your own website, having it on your own store just gives you an agency that you wouldn't have otherwise. Like, and also just in terms of margins, like you're not going to be paying a service. Well, I mean, if you're using Shopify and stuff, you will be paying some sort of service fee. But like, you'll always be paying some sort of fee if you're using a website. But at least you're minimizing the number of layers that you know, the middlemen that are collecting on their own behalf in between you and your customer.
And digital middlemen.
Exactly. They're not even moving anywhere. They're just at home.
Pressing a button. They're on Wi-Fi.
Yeah, exactly. So I think like selling online merch on your store, you know, because then also wherever on social media you're posting about stuff, you can direct people to your website. You can direct people to your merch store. It's not, I know that like Instagram is now offering some sort of merch integration, and that could be good for discovery, but you don't want to put all your eggs in that basket for the same reason you don't want to put all your eggs in purely the social media basket. You want to collect and store things somewhere where, yeah, it's some sort of a backup plan.
I think it's
Absolutely.
important, I think overall to, I don't know if this was your question specifically, but I think it's important to have a website, even if it is a landing page that like hosts all of your social media and your Spotify and your link to whoever's selling your merch, if that is the case. Because bottom line, if someone wants to buy your stuff, like it could be like, oh, I really want, you know, I really want a t-shirt from Abyss. Like, how do I find that? Like, I'm not going to go hunt down. I'm just going to Google and find his website, and that will tell me where to go. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's important if someone, you need to make it as easy as possible for people to find you. So if you have a website, and you know, consider things like search engine optimization, like where, you know, you're not picking a name that's, basically making it easier for people to find you and find all of your stuff is going to help you in the long run, no matter what. So it's important, I think, for the website.
And I think that's definitely key into it. So even when I was looking for other ways to get in touch with people or to stay into their phone contacts and all of these things, not to be invasive, but it's kind of like, hey, this is a cool way. I didn't touch you, but check this out. It has everything you might need. So I'm not walking you through those particular places and then losing other fans or customers. Because, you know, once soon as it's over, like in between the artists, a lot of times I went in between the artists. So I went second. So you kind of have a window of these couple of minutes before the next act comes on. And then you have to wait. And then you want to make sure that, oh man, did I stay on their mind, you know, past the last act? And they'd be like, hey, we're here. Cool, cool. Did you guys remember? Like, you know, so it's a lot of times. So you only have a window of opportunity to be in there. It's kind of like an elevator pitch, in and out, in and out. Not to really sound like, not to have a curt, you want to be courteous, but you definitely want to make sure you're trying to fill as many numbers if it's just you. Now, if you have other people there that to help you sell that stuff, I've watched it. People in a case where the websites probably wasn't moving as much music as they were in the live sections. Because I'll give you a case in point. I used to have a young lady to come to a venue. She performed. She had 4 family members in the back of the venue. So as soon as she's on her second song, boom, they're in the air like it's the baseball park, walking through the aisles. Hey, would you like a CD? They're catching you while she's like on her second song, probably out of 4 in a set. Boom, go back. It's like a commercial break. They break it up. They're not doing it while she's on the stage, but they're doing it in between. So if we could find something in the digital format that could probably run in between while we're not out here, like say a commercial, we do something. Hey, what are you doing to get by? You know, just get content is going to be the number one rule here. So the diligent hands will rule. So the content is probably going to have to push our merch if they can't see us publicly. So just stay in
Absolutely.
tune with your customer.
I love that. And
thank you guys already for staying over 4 extra minutes. We just had a really, really important question that popped in the chat from Patrick. And if you all could just give one golden tactic for online merch selling for our artists, if you have one to offer, that would be amazing. And that would close us out. So any kind of like golden tactic to sell merch online?
Come on, Axel.
I'm gonna go ahead and just say that if there was that simple, easy golden tactic, if there was a simple answer to it, somebody would be making millions of dollars, and we would all be reading their book. Unfortunately, that question does not have a single answer. There's thousands of ways that you could be, promoting yourself and promoting your merch. I think in terms of strategies or principles, which will probably serve you anyways in the longer term, I'm gonna go back to like, if it's not something that you yourself would buy from an artist that you love, chances are no one is going to want to buy it from you. So make it at least that good. Make it an offer that like you wouldn't want to refuse, and there's a good chance that people will want to get it from you as well.
Thank you, excellent. I know you have to jump off, so thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all of your insight. I appreciate you coming on. So thank you to Erica. Thank you to Abyss. Thank you to everybody who is in attendance. This has been So Far in Session. My name is Kristen again, and I'm so grateful to be here with you all. Erica, Abyss, Axel, thank you for your insight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Definitely.
Appreciate
And
you.
we will, appreciate you all. And we'll have this recording available for you all. You will also have all of the contact, not all the contact information, but you'll have a way to connect with the panelists as well after this in session. So thank you again. This has been In Session.